This is an unusual video. Usually I do videos that will directly help individuals to improve their life, and that has been the practice for me for over 30 years. But now the coronavirus has changed me so much, as much as it has changed everybody else. It is the time that we have to look at what is really happening to the entire world. Not just America, not just China or India, but to the entire human race. We have to really look at the future of what is going to happen in a, not that the future which is going to happen in 2030, but the immediate future. The immediate future is so uncertain. The schools are not going to be opening in fall because of the virus, and the airplanes are not going to be flying because of, again, the virus. And it is going to kind of suffocate human life. People can't go to the hospitals because they get infected. It is very ironical. And the doctors are worried that they won't be having enough patients. So what is going to happen? And what about politics? If we look at every area of our life, there is uncertainty of what is going to happen. Now let's see what needs to happen and what is desirable for us to happen. And it is not an easy question for anybody to answer. So our civilization has come this far, but there is a major drawback with our civilization. At least I can talk about that, so that we can all try to find if there can be a solution. The one thing is our own orientation to materialism tied to our own selfishness and ego. And that is being questioned now. There is not enough material resources. We cannot just go out and even work. We are afraid of being infected. And this can be a great opportunity for people to turn to God, turn to understanding our own soul, our own consciousness, our own life on earth, which has not been our goal or which has not been our inquiry at all. We never inquire what is life. This question has never been asked because we have been focusing all our attention on one thing, and that is how can we grow materially and with the ultimate goal to satisfy our senses and then get old and die. Individually as well as nationally, globally, there is only one goal for humanity, And that goal is how to become materially prosperous, how to get more material things on an individual level and also on the level of each country. Globally, we have been forced to give priority to materialism, and we don't care about anything at all. And that structure is now collapsing because of the virus. So what is going to happen? We will see there will be a lot of unrest. I hope it doesn't turn into violence, because that's the natural reaction of people when they don't have enough things to satisfy their immediate needs, physical needs, and they get mad, and then they could become violent. And no government would be able to control that kind of thing unless it is a military government or a communist government, where even there, it is going to be very difficult to continue doing that. Now, there should be some kind of intervention that has to happen, and that intervention should help humanity to seek a different model other than a model to satisfy their senses, to satisfy their ego, and look at a bigger goal. And that goal is to ask, what is life? It is no longer going to be a philosopher's preoccupation to ask about what is soul or what is life. It is going to be the concern of everyone. And I have a very strong feeling that we have that opportunity. That opportunity never comes unless there is a global crisis like this. And this global crisis is not just a war, although the war is a possibility too when situations get worse. And we have to ask questions about what is life, what is death, what it is to be a human being. When so many people are dying in front of us in huge numbers, and if we don't still not look into questions like what is life and what is death, then we are not going to grow or to learn anything out of this pandemic situation. I'm sure that there is going to be that situation going to arise as we go along. And one thing that worries me is it is not going to be an easy transition into a new civilization. We have to begin right from the very beginning, where everybody becomes conscious of what is life and what is death. And it is just not a life of total irresponsibility, total sense satisfaction, and development of science and technology to help us again to that materialistic goal, but never taking us to a better reality. This is not the first time that we have a civilization on this earth plane. The world, the earth plane has seen so many civilizations in its billions of years of its existence. And not only that, the earth plane is not the only earth here. There are so many earths in the galaxies. And why have we not preoccupied ourselves with those, models in other galaxies? Why and how? Why have we not asked the question that is there a reality other than our ego, other than our senses? And why do I think, in my opinion, I think the universe, God, is creating this situation so that we will begin to ask this question. Jesus came to ask this question. The Buddha came to ask this question, but then they all kind of got misunderstood. Jesus very clearly said that he came to create the kingdom on the earth plane, as it is in heaven. And how many Christians interpret Christianity as a movement where to develop heaven on earth? And what is heaven on earth? And he also said the kingdom is within. The kingdom is within. So everybody has to transform themselves. He even said that you have to create faith. You can move the mountain with faith. Even with a faith as small as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Where is faith now? What is how much faith we have? We have faith in one thing, and that is a good, building a good home, satisfying all our senses. And when it comes to the faith in God or a universal energy, we don't have faith in any of that. So Jesus failed. And almost all of them, all religious leaders who wanted to do something to change the world have failed, including the Buddha. The Buddha did not believe in God or soul, but he believed in consciousness. All illusions. What is the reality is you can become a Buddha. You can become awakened. And what is that awakening? It's emptiness. You are totally empty. Everything is empty. All these are illusions. And today we have an opportunity to bring Buddha together with quantum physics and bring in scientists, even like Einstein, although he was not into quantum physics, but he did say that this world is an illusion. He said the past, present, and future is illusion. But he said it is a persistent illusion. And if you just focus on this one concept, and then everybody agrees to the idea that this world is an illusion, we can all evolve. And that evolution is worthwhile for us to do, rather than just totally dedicating ourselves to science and technology to manufacture atom bombs and missiles to go and kill people around. The materialism has gotten us to a level wherein superpower is defined in terms of two things. One, the power to kill as many people as possible on one hand. The power with the number two, with what? With money. If you have money, you can do these things. And number three, if there is, we want to add one more aspect, that is to have enough resources to fulfill our material needs of money, food, and sex. So the higher life is what is needed, and that can be given only by inquiring our own existence and civilization. So many people have reflected on civilization. Freud did his own part. Civilization and Discontent is one of the very provocative essays that you wrote, that where he inquired into the pleasure principle of human beings. And then the society was created to control the pleasure principles. So as a psychiatrist, he looked at it from his own point of view, and he said, we are naturally pleasure oriented. So what happens is we want to have that pleasure satisfied. If you look at a woman and then you want to have to be with her, the man also does that. This is quite natural. He said this is the natural principle that is we are born with. But then the society is what he called as the reality principle. Hey, you are an old man. Why are you looking at a young girl and then you want to have her? And Freud saw some kind of conflict right there. So said our nature says something, our culture says something. So nature and culture is in conflict. So what you have to do is you have to suppress your natural feelings in preference over the culture. Otherwise, there won't be any culture. So Freud thought, he came up with this concept that this is not civilization. We have really suppressed our natural instinct. And so everybody becomes psychotic at the end. So this was really not acceptable to Hitler, who was living at that time, and he asked Freud to behave, don't float ideas like this. Now, the Freud's ideas are quite dangerous for the society. But then he did not go beyond the pleasure principle. Beyond the pleasure principle is the bliss principle. You can be, but he arrived at a good stage in his inquiry that seeking joy is something cannot be replaced by anything. The human nature is that we all want joy. We don't want unhappiness, pain. And where is the joy going to be? And that is going to define the new civilization which we need to create. We need joy, unending joy. And that unending joy is not going to be coming through just satisfaction of your sense pleasures, because you are going to get sick, you are going to get old, and you are going to die. So when are you going to get unending joy? When we become deathless, when we don't become old, when there is no processing of pain by our body mind. Is it possible to develop a body mind which is pain free, which is which does not have death, which gives you a liberation from all that is now realities which keep us in sorrow and suffering? Yes, there is. And that is to create a different mindset, a different body. In other words, this body and this mind should evolve. Human evolution is the only answer for permanent happiness. Otherwise, we are not going to change at all. We think that we have progressed in our evolution. We have not created a good civilization at all. We think that we have moved from monarchy to democracy. But still in democracy, does everyone have equal power or equal status? No. Only thing is we have changed the name from a king to, say, a president or a prime minister. But they are almost kings or monarchs. There is inequality. There should be somebody who sits in the Oval Office, and some other should be, have to take care of the bathroom. Okay, there is not going to be equality. There will always be. We are cheating ourselves by saying that we are all going to be equal. We are equal even in a democracy. Only in one sense, everybody has only one vote. Other than that, there is no equality. So only a spiritual solution is going to create a new civilization. Only the only way is everybody should become spiritual. Is that possible? It is possible. I want it to happen. But what needs to happen is there should be education. There should be education. What kind of education? Education in consciousness. Consciousness-based education is very important. People have to understand what is mind and how do we look at the world, and how we are, but how there is no present, past, and future. And when all these things are changed, when you don't see a past, present, future and live always in the present, then you have one thing that comes to you: infinite joy, infinite compassion, and there is no fight at all. Now you open CNN and you open and watch it for a minute, a few minutes, and then or a half hour, and then you go to Fox News and you see the fight between the two political parties. And do they want to? And the two-party system in the United States has aggravated, the situation we are already in, where we are completely dichotomized. Either you are a Democrat or you are Republican. And that tribal identity, it is a tribal identity. And the tribal identity inheres tribal loyalty. Everybody, consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, collective unconsciously favor one or the other. Either you are a Democrat or you are a Republican. And there is no objectivity. And people don't even ask the question if there is an objectivity. There is no objectivity. Because Karl Marx used to say that I cannot think independently. It is the society that is thinking through me. So you cannot have independent thinking. Because the orientation comes consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, collectively and consciously. So we have to make some decisions. So people have to really become more in the future, if we want to really change the civilization, educate themselves. And the education is about, to ask who we are and what are we doing. There are so many things in other galaxies, but we are so engrossed in our own galaxy, in our own selfish interest of sense fulfillment, and not looking at the capability that we have to know what is available for us. How can we learn from people who already have an enlightened state of consciousness? And I think, it will take a long time, if we commit to time. If we don't commit to time, there is no time. Our concept of time changed, after Einstein came and looked at time as the fourth dimension, and we challenged Newton. But nobody is given education on what time is and what mind is. If there is no time, if there is no mind, there is no time. Then there is no illusion. That illusion of time comes from the illusion of the mind. Where is the mind? It is not an object, it is a process. And this process starts when you wake up in the morning. And when you go to sleep, the mind disappears and the world disappears. So everything is dependent on the mind. And why we don't have, we don't educate people on mind. There's a lot of TV shows, putting garbage out. And then people, the consumer or people who look at this, they are engrossed in that. They have become more goofier. And all these are going to change now. The other day I was watching the video, a show which said, what is going to happen? Somebody asked the question, if there is going to be an earthquake in a downtown area of our modern cities, all over the world. We have skyscrapers, and there is going to be an earthquake, and all our financial centers are there. If there is an earthquake, that will, we will be in a different situation, similar to what we have now. And now, this is even worse. Coronavirus is something that we are not able to control. And people are criticizing Trump because every day he is checking if he has been infected. I saw it on the CNN. Cuomo was saying that he is checking every day, and the doctor comes and asks, "I wish I could. I wish I could do that for my family." And when I just thought about these things, and this man saying he's checking whether he has coronavirus, and the doctor who is there, and he says, I want to be able to check for myself and my family every day. What are you going to do by checking? And people's mind is so screwed up, and they do not know what they think and what they talk, and then is it useful to engage in this kind of fight? And what if everybody looks at the world in a different way? It is not just a philosophy. And I just told you that when you go to sleep, the mind disappears and nothing happens. The world disappears too. And this is the first lesson that a guru gives to his disciple when he goes to learn from a guru for enlightenment, which is a better life than the life centered on body and the mind. And the guru says, there is no mind, there is no world. This is all illusion. And he says, how? The student asks. The guru says, you go to sleep, the mind goes to sleep. And then the world disappears. When you wake up in the morning, then the whole world comes back. So then, without the mind, there is no world. Chitta matra is in Sanskrit the term that describes that. Chitta means the mind, matra only, the mind only exists. If this is the case, why not we put all our resources in trying to help people to understand the mind and then how we are related to the phenomenal world? And this is the first step. And then once you are able to know what the mind is and what is beyond the mind, and how beyond the mind is the superconsciousness, and how is that superconsciousness going to give you complete fulfillment. And this is also the teaching of Jesus too. When somebody came and told Jesus, father is dead or his father is dead, I don't remember the context. He said, let the dead bury the dead. Okay. Why do you make it a big deal? He is physically dead and you are spiritually dead. Let the dead bury the dead. Deny thyself and follow me. Deny thyself is deny your mind and follow me. You have to understand the true meaning of what these enlightened beings taught and then how they failed, because again and again we come back to live life to fulfill the senses. And we need a lot of money to do that. And the way people move to cities because they can make more money, there's better wine, there's better food available. And so when we have a civilization based on the mind, and that creates the conflict between the Republicans and the Democrats. Okay, they have to understand. If they understand that it's all an illusion, and why do you worry about this illusion? You have to really see that you are in the moment, in the moment, and then the other person will be, will not be an enemy anymore. There will be infinite compassion. And together we create a world so that everybody can evolve and to stop pain, suffering. And after all, we are not the flesh and blood. The death of the body, there is one idea that the death of the body is not the end of it. And then the soul lives, and the soul again comes back with the memory of what it had learned in the previous birth, and then start another lifetime. So you have to stop this an endless life and death process. So we have to educate the common people about what is life, what is mind, what is consciousness, what is to be living in the moment. And if we really make people to be happy, you cannot materially make everybody happy. Everybody cannot become a Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg. But everybody can be enlightened, can be happy, and then they don't need to become a billionaire in order to be happy. As long as you create that kind of material inequality creates only more animosity and anger. And even those people who become extraordinarily wealthy are from the point of view of enlightenment, they are ignorant. Just providing service to humanity is not religion at all. A true religion is transcendence, understanding of who you are and how you relate to the world, how you relate to God, how do you relate to the galaxy. And that is more important, how we are not just flesh and blood, and the spirit leaving the body is not at the end of it. There are so many things. The other day I was reading a book where the book was talking about the transplanted organs. Remember, the host, the original person's memories. I'll give you, I'll put it simply now. There was a liver transplant, and the person who received the liver transplant started craving for alcohol, craving for nicotine. Where did it come from? From the other person from whom he had this organ transplant donor. The organ donor was an alcoholic, was a smoker, and this fellow gets that. Now this is not what we have known before, because the transplants did not happen before. Now we are happening, but now we are studying. My God! So when there is when you receive a blood transfusion, these are all happening too. Are we going to be worried about all these things? No, we have better things to worry about. And that is a total transformation from material existence to a spiritual existence, from solid matter into light. So the ultimate goal for humanity should be to gain a body of light. We are already a body of light. It's not that we are going to become. But then our consciousness is only focusing on the flesh and blood and the material things. The flesh and blood is the orientation for us, gives the orientation for us. The senses are related to the flesh and blood and the mind. And when that is transcended, when you are going to perceive through another mechanism, not of the mind, not of the senses, and that is the answer. And what do you perceive then? You perceive then the light body. But then our training, from day one onwards, from when we came into the earth plane till we die, is going to be, making you to commit to only the perception of the senses, and all our laws, society, and socializing, everything is based on our material reality. So can we really become more enlightened, more live from a non-mind, and that gives you, the idea of who really we are. And if a society is going to be based on that, then it will be a liberation. Then it will be a liberation. And now every Messiah who came here was teaching this, but everybody failed. And now we have a possibility, real possibility, when everything is being challenged by this coronavirus. I honestly wish that we can really do that. And there was one enlightened being here who lived, who was very controversial. But then he was able to psychologize his consciousness to look at the world differently. His name is Adida, A-D-I-D-A. And look at, listen to some of his videos. And he was in India and was getting trained there, and then he came and he developed his own system. And he always talks about to his devotees, don't look at the world through your ego. And you cannot do that. And he wanted, at the end of his life, he really wanted, some of his people approached me with a proposal to create a world government. And in that government, only egoless people will be there. And when you have no ego, then you will be full of love. There is no judgment. There is only love, compassion. If there is no ego between the Democrats and the Republicans, how will the government operate? It will operate based on love, based on understanding of what? Of the divinity of the other person, of yourself. And that is what he tried to visualize. At least, I knew it will take a long, long time to get people to that level of seeing the non-mind and also living the non-mind and seeing it as an illusion, but still a reality too. This is a very, intense topic, so I can't do justice for this, but at least I want you to think, some of you, of a possibility, even if it is not going to be happening to a country, any country, at least on a personal level, there will be a liberation. You will be personally able to liberate yourself from the body-mind, from the senses, from the need to go and make money. And then your mind is crowded with all the time about the need to make more money so that your life will be, pleasant. But you don't need any of these things. With all these things, you can get, like Steve Jobs developed pancreatic cancer and died. With all the money, he could not live. So if you can really focus on the thoughts that I have just shared with you, there will be, at least if the world doesn't change, at least there will be some kind of understanding of what life is on a personal level. And if everybody on a personal level starts to ask questions, then there will be a change. And I pray to God, to the Almighty, not the one God, Christian or Buddhist or whatever God there is, but I pray to all of them. They are real. All of them are real. To help humanity to get to that level. There should be a divine intervention, and I hope that the divine intervention comes sooner rather than later. God bless.